Welcome to our deep dive into the OPXY synthesizer. We'll be exploring the ins and outs of the user manual version 1.09 you provided.
Sounds good.
Hopefully by the end you'll have a really solid grasp of OPXY's features and how to use them.
A solid grasp is definitely the goal.
To make your own music, of course.
That's the idea.
So starting with this captivating detail, the OPXY is made from this
It's sleek.
black anodized aluminum.
Yeah.
And it features a really sleek design with a keyboard.
Yeah, and the keyboard is
With a fading scale of dark gray keys.
dark gray, yeah.
Very interesting.
And beyond just the aesthetics, this design really does speak to the OPXY's precision and tactile responsiveness.
Right.
The manual really stresses that. And for
Right.
musicians who value a more immediate and physical connection with their instrument, it's great for that.
Okay, so speaking of tools, let's unpack some of the key features here.
Okay.
We have a 24-step sequencer,
Yes.
24-voice polyphony, built-in effects,
Uh-huh.
and it's got a diverse range of synthesis engines.
Yeah, it does.
Plus, it's portable,
Oh, and I almost forgot. It's so portable.
designed to be taken anywhere. And you can even attach it to surfaces.
It includes a bracket for,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
For secure attachment.
secure attachment to a lot of different things.
So how do we turn this thing on?
So the power switch is conveniently located on the top.
Okay.
Just a quick flip, and the display lights up.
Okay.
And it showcases the firmware version, just briefly.
Okay.
And then you're ready to make music.
So it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
How about charging? The manual mentions this USB-C port.
Yeah, charging's handled through that USB-C port.
Okay.
Simply connect it.
And then
And the display will indicate charging progress.
so you can,
You can see how it's going.
track its progress.
Yeah. And a full battery indicator will let you know when it's ready.
Perfect. Is there anything else we should be aware of with the power and charging? That's unique.
I mean, it remembers its last power state. So you don't have to flip the switch on and off every time.
Oh, that's nice.
It just remembers whether you had it on or off.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about some key physical control.
Yeah.
Some of these knobs and such.
Knobs and buttons, yeah. On the top right, we have the built-in speaker
Okay.
and the volume knob.
Yeah.
And then on the bottom left is a pressure-sensitive pitch bend.
Pressure sensitive. What does that mean for the user?
So that means the more you press, like the degree of pressure you apply, will determine how much you bend notes.
Got it.
So a light pressure will create subtle bends, whereas a harder press yields a more dramatic shift in pitch.
Oh, so you have that kind of fine-grained control right on the hardware.
Right on the hardware, yeah.
Very cool. So the OPXY can also interface with other devices, right?
Yeah, a range of inputs and outputs.
Like what are we talking about?
We've got a headphone jack,
Okay.
so for private listening.
Got
But I think the one to really look at is the multi-out jack.
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. What's so special about that?
Well, that enables the use of 6 separate outputs.
Wow.
Yeah, and it has customizable control over what's sent to each one, including CV and gate signals.
Can you break down what those are for those who might not be familiar?
Sure. CV stands for control voltage,
Okay.
and gate is just a type of trigger signal. They're commonly used to connect and control other synths,
Got it.
particularly from the modular world,
Okay.
and a lot of the vintage synth world uses those as well.
So the OPXY can actually act as the command center for a whole
Kind of.
larger electronic music setup.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
And there's also a microphone.
Oh, wow.
Built-in microphone and level meter right on the front panel.
Oh, so you can sample on the go.
On the go, sampling.
That's really cool. It's like a portable studio.
It really is.
So now that we kind of have a grasp of the hardware here, let's kind of delve into its core workflow.
Okay.
How do we actually use this thing to make music?
So at its heart, the OPXY is built around step sequencing and layering sounds.
Okay.
We're basically programming patterns of notes and sounds, building them up into more complex arrangements.
So the manual mentions these 4 main modes.
Yes, it does.
Instrument, auxiliary, arrange, and mix. What are their roles in this creative process?
Well, these are all distinct stages of music creation.
Okay.
So instrument mode focuses on crafting those individual sounds.
Okay.
Auxiliary mode provides tools like MIDI effects, external audio routing, and this fascinating feature called Brain.
The Brain. Very interesting name for this.
Yeah, it's a little bit more advanced, but
We'll get into it.
we'll definitely get into it.
Okay. And arrange and mix. What about those?
So arrange mode, that's where you structure your song.
Okay.
You basically assemble patterns
Got it.
created in the other modes. And then mix mode, you adjust levels, panning, effects, and finalize your mix.
So it's that logical progression.
Yeah, it is.
You create the sounds.
You create sounds.
You refine them with effects.
Refine them.
You structure them.
To structure them.
And you polish.
And polish the mix at the end.
Great, great.
Right.
But there's also this other thing mentioned in the manual called modules. What are those?
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
So within each main mode are these submodes or modules.
Got it.
And you access them by the 4 encoders just above the track buttons.
Okay.
Modules grant granular control over a wide range of parameters.
Okay, so the encoders are kind of like fine-tuning these knobs.
Tuning knobs.
All these different settings.
Settings, yeah. You combine movements of the encoders with different button presses.
Okay.
And that allows you to dive deep and customize nearly every aspect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds very powerful.
It is.
So let's back up a little bit. What about the track buttons? How do we use those?
Sure. So we've got 8 of them labeled 1 through 8.
Okay.
And that's your interface for selecting and controlling both instrument and auxiliary tracks.
Got it.
A simple press enters a track. A white or red light indicates your selection.
Okay.
It's very straightforward.
So the red light just means the one that's currently selected, not necessarily
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's playing.
Got it. How about loading presets? Are there any sounds, any pre-made sounds in this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It features a whole selection of presets for each track.
Oh, great.
To load one, simply hold the shift button and press the corresponding track button.
So that's a nice, quick way to
It's a quick way to get started.
experiment with different sounds.
Exactly.
Great. Anything else about the track selection we should be aware of?
You can link tracks.
Link tracks.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
You hold down one track button and press another track button.
Okay.
And that allows you to control up to 4 tracks simultaneously.
So like if I wanted to adjust the filter cutoff on 4 tracks
Yeah, exactly.
at the same time, I could do that.
One knob movement.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Opens up a lot of creative possibilities for manipulating multiple sounds at the same time.
Very cool. Very powerful. Now let's turn our attention to what is arguably the heart of the OPXY,
Yeah,
the sequencer.
the sequencer.
So this is physically, we see this right across the middle
Centerpiece right in the middle.
of the OPXY.
Yeah,
This is where we program the notes and sounds
that's right.
that make up our music, right?
Think of it as a timeline,
Okay.
divided into steps, a musical timeline.
Got it.
Each step can hold a note,
Okay.
a chord, or a rest.
And by combining those strategically, you can construct the rhythmic and melodic foundations of your songs.
Yeah, across multiple tracks.
Very cool. Now it seems straightforward in theory, but I imagine there's a lot of depth to this.
Oh, yeah, there is.
So what are some fundamental concepts that we should grasp when it comes to step sequencing?
Well, to begin, you select notes and chords using that musical keyboard
Okay.
on the bottom left.
Got it.
Sequencing these notes involves placing them onto the sequencer grid
Okay.
by pressing the corresponding step buttons.
So each note I press on the keyboard can be assigned to a specific step in the sequence,
Exactly.
and then it's visually represented by those eliminated
Of the lights.
buttons, right?
Yeah.
And if there's no note, then it's just a rest.
Then it's a rest.
I see. Now, can we edit or remove notes
Absolutely.
from the sequence?
To remove a note from a specific step,
Okay.
just hold down the step button
Okay.
and press the same note
Okay.
on the keyboard.
Got it.
Got it. Straightforward.
So the manual also mentions live recording and step recording.
Yeah, 2 different approaches.
What's the difference between those?
Live recording captures your performance in real time,
Okay.
while step recording gives you more precise control over note placement and timing.
I see. So with live recording, I can just improvise
Yeah, just improvise.
and capture things organically
You just hit the record button
Okay.
while you're playing.
while you're playing. Got it. And then step recording is more meticulous.
Yeah, you hold down the record button
Okay.
and tap individual steps.
Got it.
And then you play the note you want to assign to that step.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that has quantization.
Quantization, what's that?
So that will automatically align the timing of your notes to the beat.
So if I'm a little bit sloppy, it will
Clean it up.
fix it for me.
Yeah.
Great, great. So are there any other techniques for manipulating these sequences?
Oh, yeah. There's lots. You can nudge steps forward or backward in the sequence.
Okay.
You can apply parameter locks to individual steps.
What are those?
Those allow you to automate changes
Okay.
to specific parameters.
Got it.
On a step-by-step basis.
Just give me an example.
Like, let's say you want the filter cutoff to gradually increase over 4 steps. So rather than manually adjusting the filter cutoff knob for each step,
Got it.
you can program that.
directly into
It's a sequence.
the sequence. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's not just limited to filter cutoff.
You can do it with
All sorts of parameters.
very cool.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful. How do we clear those parameter locks, though, if we want to get rid of them?
Hold down the step button and press clear.
Easy enough.
Easy enough, yeah.
So we've got selecting notes, recording, editing, nudging these steps, parameter locks. Any other techniques or tips when working with the sequencer?
There's this sequence press feature, which is really just efficient movement between steps.
Got it.
So you hold down one step button and press another, and it jumps you right to that spot.
Got it. Are there any shortcuts for just listening to sounds?
Yeah, there's a sound-only mode.
Oh.
Accessed by holding down a specific step button.
Okay.
So that allows you to preview that sound
Okay.
without triggering the whole sequence.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very handy. Very handy. Now, this manual also makes a lot of mention of this bar function.
Yeah.
What's the role of that when it comes to the sequencer?
So that gives you a really powerful way to extend your sequences
Okay.
and modify key parameters.
So if the standard sequencer grid is just not enough,
Yeah.
I can use the bar function to make it longer.
Exactly, yeah. By default, each track is allocated a single bar, which is a specific number of steps.
Okay.
But the bar function lets you add up to 4 bars per track.
So I could quadruple the space I have.
Quadruple the space.
Wow. What else can I do with this bar control? The manual mentions this track scaling.
Track scaling. That adjusts the rhythmic resolution of a track. You can scale it up or down.
Okay.
And that will basically expand or shrink the space between steps.
So you can have like a drum track playing 16th notes and then a bass line playing quarter notes,
Yeah, exactly.
all within the same project.
Yeah, it's all independent.
Wow.
So very flexible. The manual also mentions applying grooves within this bar function.
Grooves, what are those?
So those are pre-programmed rhythmic variations,
Okay.
and they introduce a hummy feel to your sequences.
Hmm.
So they'll shift the timing of steps just slightly.
To make it sound less robotic,
Exactly.
more human.
More organic.
Very cool. What kind of grooves are we talking about? Give me some examples.
There's a diverse selection.
Yeah.
But, shuffle is a very popular one.
Okay.
It's that classic swing pattern often used in funk, hip-hop, R&B.
It's very recognizable.
It is very recognizable, yeah.
So you can fine-tune the intensity of those grooves too, right?
You can adjust both the groove type and the groove amount.
Very cool. Very cool. So we can add bars.
We can.
We can scale tracks.
Yeah.
We can apply grooves. Anything else?
You can adjust note length, quantization settings, and even apply a smoothing function to parameter locks.
Okay. So we have a lot we can do with this bar function.
Oh.
It sounds very powerful.
It is.
So this serves as a reminder. This is just a starting point.
It really is, yeah.
There's a lot more to explore.
A lot more in that manual, yeah.
So with that in mind, let's keep going.
Okay.
What's next on our sonic journey?
Let's delve into step components. They unlock even greater potential for rhythmic and melodic variation.
Sounds good. Step components.
Okay.
Let's take a little break and we'll reconvene shortly.
Sounds good. Welcome back.
The sequencer alone is incredible.
It is, yeah.
Just so much control, so much flexibility.
A lot to explore there.
I'm excited about these step components you mentioned.
Step components, yes.
What are they and how do they enhance our creative potential here?
They're essentially modifiers that you apply to individual steps within a sequence.
Okay.
So let's say you want to introduce a subtle stutter to a drum beat,
Okay.
or maybe a sweeping pitch slide on a synth line.
Got it.
Step components are how you do that.
So they're like specialized tools
Yes.
for manipulating the steps,
Yes.
adding those unique variations to our sequences.
Exactly.
What kind of step components are we talking about here?
So we have pulse
Okay.
that allows you to repeat a note multiple times within a step.
So like creating that.
A pulsating or stuttering effect.
So if I have a kick drum hitting on every fourth beat,
Yeah.
I could use pulse to make it hit twice
Exactly.
to get that double kick.
Exactly. And you can control the number of pulses, too.
Even more rhythmic complexity.
Yeah.
I like it. What else?
There's the hold component
Right.
that allows you to sustain a note
Beyond the step.
beyond the duration of its assigned step. Yeah.
So it creates like a legato.
Legato or a tide effect. Yeah.
So instead of it abruptly cutting off, it can smoothly.
Flow into the next step.
Okay.
Or even extend beyond it.
Cool.
And you have control over how long it sustains, of course.
So a lot of expressive potential there.
Yes.
What
A
are
multiply component.
multiplier? Okay.
This is where we get into subdivisions within a step.
Yeah. Subdivisions.
You can divide a step into smaller rhythmic units.
Okay, so if I have a quarter note step,
Yeah.
I could divide it into eighth notes, 16th notes.
Exactly.
That's a lot of rhythmic possibility.
It is. Very cool. So you can create syncopated patterns, intricate polyrhythms, by combining all those.
Polyrhythms, that's where you have different meters interacting.
Right, like 3 against 4, 5 against 7.
The OPXY is a deep machine.
It is, yeah.
We're just scratching the surface here.
Definitely.
What about melodic manipulation?
So for that, we have ramp up and ramp down.
Okay.
They're for creating pitch slides.
Pitch slides, like up or down.
Ascending or descending, yep.
Cool.
Think of them like pitch bends that happen on a per-step basis.
So like a bass line that slides up gracefully to the target note?
Exactly, or a synth melody that swoops down dramatically.
Very cool.
And you have control over the speed and range, of course.
So subtle or dramatic, it's up to you.
Exactly.
The OPXY can handle anything. Now, are there any components that are a little more random?
You read my mind.
Okay.
We have the random component for injecting some chance into your sequences.
Interesting.
It can randomly alter the pitch or other parameters.
Oh, it could create
glitches, subtle detuning, or a touch of controlled chaos.
So imagine I have a melody.
Yeah.
And I make the pitch jump around randomly.
It can do that.
To get that glitch.
Exactly. And you control the range of randomization, so it can be subtle or very extreme.
I like that. A little bit of a human element.
A little bit of randomness.
Now, we've explored pulse, hold, multiply, ramp up, down, and random.
That's a good start.
Are there any more?
Well, a few more specialized ones worth mentioning.
Okay.
Each one has a specific purpose.
Like what?
Portamento creates a smooth glide between notes.
Okay.
So like a slide on a guitar or trombone.
Got it.
Bend applies a pitch bend to a step, so you can add those expressive variations. Tonality transposes steps based on a chosen scale, so your melodies adhere to a specific harmonic framework.
I see.
Jump allows you to skip over steps, so you can create syncopation and rhythmic surprises.
Okay.
And skip step component lets you disable specific components on certain steps, so you have even more control over their application.
So many possibilities.
There are, but remember, you don't have to master everyone right away.
Right.
Start with the basics, experiment, see what works for you.
It's all about exploration and discovery.
Exactly.
And using these tools to express your own musical ideas.
Absolutely.
What else is there to explore?
Let's talk about players.
Players, okay.
This is where we get into arpeggiators and chord triggers.
Players, that name is interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So arpeggiators and chord triggers, how do they work?
Imagine you have a simple sequence of notes.
Okay.
Players can instantly transform them.
Into
flowing arpeggios,
right.
Strummed chord progressions, or even complex rhythmic patterns.
Without having to program them manually.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, so it adds depth and texture.
It does.
Very easily.
It's all about making things easier.
So how do these players work?
They analyze your sequences
and
apply specific musical transformations.
Interesting.
There are a variety of player styles to choose from.
So it's like having a team of virtual musicians.
I like that, yeah.
Ready to embellish your ideas?
Exactly.
Now, ready to try this out. How do we integrate these players?
So in either instrument or auxiliary mode, you press the player button. It's right below the COM button on the right side.
Got it.
And that toggles the player on or off for the selected track.
So how do we choose between the different styles?
The shift button.
Yeah, you hold down shift and press the player button.
Okay.
And that cycles through the styles.
I see. Easy enough.
It is, yeah.
So tell me about these different player styles. What are some examples?
Arpeggio is a popular one.
Arpeggio. Okay.
It creates those, arpeggiated patterns.
Those cascading patterns of notes. Yeah, that add movement and energy.
Exactly. And you can control the direction, the speed, the octave range.
It's a built-in arpeggiator.
It is.
That adapts to my sequence. What else?
Chord.
Chord, okay.
It triggers chords based on your sequence.
Okay.
You can choose from a library of chords or even create your own.
So if I have a bass line playing root notes, it could generate full chords above.
To create a full harmonic progression.
That's amazing.
It is
Who else?
The role player.
Okay.
It rapidly repeats notes.
Like a
rolling or strumming effect.
So I could take a snare hit and turn it into a drum roll.
Or a synth line that sounds like a strummed guitar.
These players are really cool.
They are.
So we've got arpeggiators, chord triggers, rhythmic rolls, anything else.
Hold.
It sustains the notes, similar to the hold step component.
So it's a sustain pedal for the whole sequence.
Exactly.
Is there anything else about working with players that we should know?
Each player style has adjustable parameters,
Okay.
so you can fine-tune how they behave.
So it's not just one size fits all.
No, it's all about customization.
Very cool.
It is.
Where are we going next on our sonic journey?
Project management.
Project management. Okay, so we're transitioning,
A bit more practical.
yeah, away from all the sonic manipulation and,
Yeah, it might seem less exciting, but it's very important.
of course, for organization and workflow.
Organization is key.
So tell me about project management. How does the OPXY handle projects?
It can hold thousands of projects.
Thousands.
Yeah.
So each project is like a song or a collection of related ideas,
Exactly.
like a blank canvas
It is, yeah.
for your musical masterpiece,
I like that.
with thousands of potential songs waiting to be created.
They are there.
But with all this creative potential, how do we save our work?
Saving is crucial, yes.
Of course.
To navigate to the project view, you just press the project button.
Okay,
It's next to the tempo button.
got it. So I'm in project view. What are my options?
You can create a new project
Okay.
by pressing and holding M1
M1, that's the first encoder button.
right above the track buttons.
Okay, so I hold it down, new project.
New project,
What about saving my current project?
you just press M2.
The second encoder button.
Exactly.
Now, what if I want to save a variation of my current work?
You can press and hold M1 to create a new project,
Uh-huh.
but it will save your existing project as a new version.
So I don't lose my work.
It's all about options.
That's great.
It is, yeah.
What about naming projects?
Renaming is easy.
Okay.
You press M3, that's the third encoder button,
Got it.
and you can use the encoders to select characters.
So it's like texting on an old phone.
Kind of, yeah.
Now, what about project configuration?
That's M4, the fourth encoder button.
Okay, M4, project configuration.
You can fine-tune all sorts of settings there.
Happy.
Tempo, time signature, MIDI configuration,
Aye.
even the number of voices used by the synth.
Okay, so a lot of options.
There are.
Maybe we can come back to those later.
Absolutely.
But it sounds very customizable.
It is.
Anything else about project management?
You have the projects folder.
Okay.
You get there by holding down Shift and pressing project.
Okay, projects folder.
It gives you an overview of all your projects.
The master archive.
Exactly.
The history.
History, okay? It saves a history of changes.
Yeah. So I can go back.
You can go back, undo mistakes.
Revert to an earlier version.
It's like a time machine.
Amazing.
It is, yeah.
So history is part of project management.
It is.
It encourages experimentation
It does, yeah.
because, you can always go back.
Exactly.
So we've got creating, saving, renaming, configuring,
I got it all.
organizing, revisiting.
A comprehensive system.
What's next?
Let's talk about tempo, grooves, and workflow.
Okay, so now we're moving beyond the individual elements
Yes.
and thinking about the bigger picture,
Exact.
how it all comes together.
The cohesive whole.
I like it.
It's all about the big picture.
Let's start with tempo,
Tempo. Yeah.
of overall speed.
The pace, the energy.
And we control that with the tempo button.
Yes, it's on top of the device.
How do we adjust it?
You can use the encoders.
Right.
Or you can tap the button.
Tap it in.
Yeah, tap in the desired tempo.
So if I have a melody in my head,
Yeah.
I can just tap it out.
The OPXY will figure it out.
That's very cool.
It is.
Efficient and intuitive.
Exactly.
What about swing?
Swing, yes, that's the subtle rhythmic variation,
Okay.
that grooving or shuffling feel.
That makes it infectious.
Exactly, and the OPXY gives you control over that.
Okay.
You can adjust the swing amount.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What about the metronome?
The metronome is essential for staying on beat.
Okay.
You can enable it in the tempo view
Got it.
and adjust the volume.
So if I want it to play all the time or just while recording.
You can do that.
Okay, cool. Now we've discussed tempo and swing. What about these grooves?
Grooves, yes.
How do they differ from swing?
Swing is a global rhythmic feel.
Okay.
Grooves are more specialized.
Pre-programmed.
They shift the timing of individual steps.
You make it more human.
Exactly, less robotic.
So what kind of grooves are available?
Shuffle is a classic.
Shuffle.
That classic swing pattern
Yeah.
used in funk, hip-hop, R&B.
What else? Dub.
Okay. A reggae-inspired groove
Okay.
emphasizes the offbeat.
Okay, cool.
Latin introduces a Latin swing pattern.
So now we're getting into salsa bossa nova.
Yeah, exactly.
The OPXY can do it all.
It's versatile.
The manual also mentions some less conventional ones like disfunk, rollover, prophetic.
Yeah, those are more experimental.
Okay.
Disfunk blends disco and funk.
Interesting.
Rollover slows things down.
Okay.
Prophetic is a bit more abstract.
Prophetic. I like the sound of that.
It's unique.
I have to try it out. So how do we apply these grooves?
In the tempo view,
Okay.
you can select the type,
Got it.
and adjust the amount.
So it can be subtle or intense.
Exactly.
Very cool.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about tempo, swing, the metronome,
We have
and a lot of different grooves.
a good selection.
What about workflow?
Workflow is all about how we organize our ideas
Fair.
to complete songs.
So we're thinking about structure and arrangement.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready.
So we have patterns.
Patterns. Okay.
Think of them as self-contained musical sections.
Okay.
The building blocks of your song.
So like a verse, a chorus, a bridge.
Yeah, or even a drum fill.
Each pattern is like a musical snapshot.
Yeah, I like that.
And I can create multiple patterns within a project,
Yes,
each one representing a different section.
exactly.
And the OPXY can store up to 99 patterns.
I mean, that's a lot.
That's a lot of potential.
It is.
But even with all these patterns, how do we arrange them?
That's where scenes come in.
Scenes, okay.
They're containers for your patterns.
Look at it.
You can arrange them into a linear sequence.
So each scene is like a chapter
Yes.
in my song
a chapter in your song.
with a specific arrangement of patterns
That's right.
that play out in order.
Exactly.
And I can have up to 99 scenes.
That's right.
Wow, so much flexibility.
It's all there.
Okay, so patterns are the building blocks.
The building blocks.
Scenes are the chapters.
Yes.
And the project is the whole book.
I like that analogy, the complete song.
And this workflow is very clear.
It is, yeah.
Very logical.
It's designed to be.
Okay, now what about saving?
Saving is important,
Of course.
but the OKXY has an autosave feature,
Oh, that's great.
so your work is constantly being saved.
Wow, so no more lost work.
Well, it's still best to save manually,
Okay.
just to be safe.
So autosave is the safety net,
It is.
and manual saving is the good habit.
Exactly.
Anything else about workflow and saving?
The history function is great for workflow.
History, that time machine.
Exactly. You can always go back.
It encourages experimentation
It does.
because you're not afraid to make mistakes.
No mistakes, only happy accidents.
I like that.
It's a good way to look at it.
Okay, I think I have a good understanding of workflow,
You do.
patterns, scenes, projects, saving.
The essential.
What's next?
Instruments.
Instrument. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting.
The heart of it all.
The sound creation.
Exactly. Let's dive in. It excels at creating basses, leads, stabs, and any sound that needs to cut through the mix.
You mentioned synchronized sounds. What does that mean when we talk about hard sync?
Well, it refers to the precise synchronization of the oscillator waveforms to the tempo of your project.
Okay.
So this tight synchronization creates a very locked-in, energetic sound that's great for rhythmic patterns and bass lines.
So hard sync, we can create these really powerful and rhythmically precise sounds.
Yeah.
Great for adding energy. What about organ?
Organ is great. It recreates those rich and textured sounds
Okay.
of classic organs, ranging from the warm tones of a Hammond B3 to the more aggressive sounds of a Vox Continental.
Organ sounds, those are essential
Yeah, very versatile.
for all sorts of music. What are some of the key features of the organ engine?
So the organ engine gives you control over these drawbar settings,
Okay.
which simulate the physical drawbars found on a real organ.
Okay, good.
So you can blend different harmonics.
So you can create a wide range of sounds.
Yeah, a lot of different tonal colors.
Very cool.
You can also add rotary speaker simulation and overdrive.
Ooh, rotary speaker simulation. That's key.
Yeah, that's essential.
Very cool.
It is.
All right, organ. That's a winner for sure. What about Prism?
Prism specializes in those shimmering, evolving synth sounds.
Okay.
It's great for atmospheric pads, ethereal melodies, and otherworldly soundscapes.
It sounds beautiful.
It's very pretty.
Okay, now last but not least, wavetable.
Wavetable uses wavetables,
Okay.
which are basically collections of predefined waveforms
Got it.
as the building blocks of sound.
And the OPXY wavetable engine, does that have a lot of wavetables?
Yeah, it has a big library of wavetables, and you can morph between them.
Morph, so we can change from one to another.
Yeah, seamlessly to create really dynamic and evolving sounds.
So instead of being stuck with one waveform, you can transition between them.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So how do we actually select and change the synth engine on a track?
Easy. While you're in instrument mode, you select your track,
Okay.
and you hold down Shift and press M1.
Okay.
There's the first encoder button,
Got it.
and that cycles through the engines.
Great, great. So now with the synth engines down, let's move on to effects.
Yeah, effects are fun.
Yeah, what kind of effects can we find in the OPXY?
It offers 6 built-in effects.
6. Okay, not bad.
Each one has its own unique character and adjustable parameters.
Okay, let's go through them. What are those 6?
We have chorus. It adds that lush, shimmering quality by layering copies of the original signal.
That's a classic effect for adding depth and richness.
Absolutely. Synths, vocals, guitars.
What else?
We've got delay, creates echoes of the signal.
Delay, another classic.
Yeah, you can adjust the delay time, the feedback amount, and even modulate the delay time.
So you can create anything from subtle echoes to wild psychedelic sounds.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
We have distortion, adds grit and aggression.
Distortion, yeah, that's essential.
Adds edge to synths, guitars, vocals, and drums.
Love a good distortion. What else?
Lo-fi emulates the sound of vintage equipment.
Okay, so that's for a retro vibe.
Yeah, bit crushing, downsampling, filtering, it all contributes to that lo-fi aesthetic.
Lo-fi, very cool. Next.
We have phaser. It creates those swirling, sweeping sounds.
So it combines the original signal with a phase-shifted copy.
It does, yeah, and you can get subtle movement or really dramatic sounds.
Phaser, very versatile, very cool. And the last one.
Last one is reverb. Simulates those natural reflections of sound in a space.
Reverb, yeah, it adds depth and ambience.
You can adjust the size and character of the virtual space.
So from small room to a giant hall.
Exactly.
Very cool. So now that we know about the effects, how do we use them?
Each track has its own effects section.
Okay,
You press the FX button to access it,
got it.
and then you use the encoders to select the effect and adjust the parameters.
So it's all very intuitive.
Very straightforward.
So there you have it, the OPXY synthesizer.
Fantastic instrument.
From the hardware design to the sequencer,
all the different synth engines.
those creative step components, the players, and the effects.
It's a deep machine.
Very versatile and inspiring.
It is.
So to you, our listener, we encourage you to pick up an OPXY and explore it for yourself.
Absolutely.
Use everything you talked about today and see what you can create.
And of course, always refer back to the manual.
The OPXY is more than just a synthesizer. It's a portal to endless sonic possibilities.
It really is.
So go out there and make some music.
Have fun with it.